because people working out of their homes over an extended period of time find themselves isolated.
Welcome to Biz Stories Shared, where storytellers share their inspiration, motivation, some disappointments, and how they applied the lessons that led them to success. Stories are gifts. Listen as these gifts are shared. Now, here is your host, Charlotte Plott.
Well, hello, storytellers. This is Charlotte Plott, and I'm thrilled to bring you our guest today, Joshua Capy. Joshua, are you ready to be a storyteller?
Yes, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. I'll tell you a little bit about Joshua's company. It's called Mobile Next. He transforms companies into profit engines. He's highly passionate about evolving social business models, particularly in mobile. Joshua builds thriving, high-impact businesses through the alignment of purpose and value. Joshua has devoted the bulk of his 25-year IT career designing and developing mission-critical software, many utilizing social networks built from the ground up. Mobile Next offers a range of services to help grow businesses focused on the triple bottom line of people, profit, and the planet. Joshua works to support local agricultural movements, particularly as a member of the board of directors at gardenforhumanity.org. All right, Joshua, I've given our listeners just a little summary about you. So if you take a minute and tell us about you personally, because we want to get to know you better, and then give us an overview of your business.
Well, thank you, Charlotte. So I decided to do mobile because essentially I found that the current state of social media was basically turning the internet into a very noisy spam engine, and it wasn't engaging people. The mobile side, I came to the conclusion, was one of the best ways to reach potential customers as well as stay engaged with existing customers. And the thing that I found most challenging and interesting about mobile is that it provides the first opportunity to converge what the internet, the best of what the internet has to offer, the real world, because mobile is always in your pocket. Therefore, information can be delivered contextually to where you are physically.
Was it hard learning how to do mobile apps? It seems to me that'd really be challenging.
Mobile is challenging in the sense that you're dealing with a much smaller screen, but that's also an advantage in a way, because one of the problems with websites is they tend to be kitchen sink solutions where the user experience, the user interface design is way too busy. When you work with mobile, you have to pare everything down to the essential concept, the essential idea, and focus exclusively on that. So it demands that you be very focused in what you're working on.
Well, I can see that that is an advantage because it does have to fit on that smaller screen. With so much going on in the world today, we need to be able to focus on something that is just truly what we need, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, Joshua. Well, now here at Biz Stories Shared, we start every show with our favorite quote. So, Joshua, what's your favorite quote and how do you apply this to your everyday thinking?
I guess my quote is to amplify your business to amplify your growth. This comes out of the recognition that mobile helps brand your business better. It increases the SEO to your existing website, and it creates new models for engaging your customer base and potential customer base. Both changes your existing business model as well as it creates new business models that never were possible before.
I see. Well, how would you want the storyteller listeners to apply this mantra to their journey?
You know, one of the main things that mobile allows you to do that you can't do with, say, a regular website is bidirectional communication with your customer base or with your employees, because we tend to focus on two types of solutions. There's the B2C, and then there's internal solutions where there are operational efficiencies, everything around communications, project management, fulfillment of, your core business tasks. So what mobile allows you to do is to be able to connect that individual wherever they are in the physical world with the tasks or the products that you want to connect them with. For example, recently we had a very challenging project that was brought to us, and it was challenging for a couple of reasons. First, they had little to no budget. Second, they considered their problem set to be kind of insurmountable. This was two authors who were also physicians who specialized natural travel medicine. So they had a really unique kind of niche. The problem was they traveled a lot in order as authors, so their patient load would drop. So then the other problem was, specialized in travel medicine, their patients were also traveling. Our challenge was how to turn that negative into a positive.
Wow.
So what we did, every mobile solution involves a web backend. I mean, mobile, let's be clear, mobile is not a replacement for your existing website, but it will change it. So what we did is we came up with a solution where we created a mobile app that gave away, or nearly gave away, some of their core knowledge useful for the traveler who was traveling in the third world. That took the contents of one of their books and turned it into a self-diagnosing app where you just selected your symptoms. If you didn't know what you had, you just selected your symptoms, and it would come up with several the possible conditions that you have. Then again, taking the natural solutions that didn't require any prescriptions, and they're both preventative as well as treating them. And so what we did is we did that part. Then we added in to the app two other things: their blog, so that every time they wrote a new article, it would give a push notification to the phone so that the user would know, oh, there's a new article.
Wow.
And so that they would get a new tip, a health tip. And then we also added e-commerce so that their other books, as free as well as for pay, were purchasable right through the app. Then we added, finally, the last thing we added to it was an appointment form.
Oh
So you
my.
could be anywhere in the world and you can make it a Skype appointment. So if whatever you've got is a little bit beyond your ability to self-diagnose and treat, you can create a Skype appointment from wherever you are in the world, and they can connect with you. And they can connect with you wherever they are because even when they're traveling, they have Skype on their phone.
My
So by
goodness.
doing this, we connected the traveling patient and the traveling doctor
Oh, that is
to create a
amazing.
solution. So and we were able to do this at a very reasonable price. So I particularly like that because it's a simple solution that solved a difficult problem very inexpensively.
Ooh, that does sound like that was a very difficult problem to start out with, and you really encompassed everything, didn't you? With from appointments to their most recent articles. Gosh, that sounds great. I bet they were happy.
Yes, the object is to create a relationship.
Sure.
So you're creating a relationship through their content and giving them a useful, creating a relationship and reminders every time a new blog article comes out to give them the opportunity to engage them in an appointment.
Wow, that sounds terrific. Good for you. That was really all encompassing.
Yeah, I mean, we've worked on many projects that are far more complex from programming perspective. It's very gratifying when you can find a simple solution to a complex problem.
Ooh, yes, I can believe that would. They all sound like complex problems to me when you talk about all those different things that you put into that one app. Well, good for you. Well, Joshua, you shared the many facets of your life being in business and how you help and teach, but along the way, you maybe have had some failures. So I want to ask you to tell us of one of the times that you just didn't get the results that you set out to achieve. You failed. Will you tell us that story and, most importantly, the lessons that you learned?
There was one, and it was a very long time ago. It was failure. It was a project for international creative management, second largest talent management company in the world. They had offices in Los Angeles, United Kingdom, London, excuse me, and New York. And it was only my second project, so I was a
Wow.
very junior programmer. And one of the biggest mistakes that I made in that project was not understanding, and I think this is really common for the new programmer, is if you're a business programmer, you're in the most political hotspot that is
Oh,
possible.
right.
And I think that, coming out of college, etc., they don't prepare you for that.
Mm-hmm.
You're not at all prepared for the realities of a highly political situations, both at the client end as well as within the company that you're working for. So I trying to jump too high, ignoring the political red flags that were going off because I was just not was not experienced enough to realize that, particularly within the company that I was working in, I was being set out there essentially unsupported in a role that was much too big for me to take. And the reason I missed all those things was I got kind of bedazzled by the project. It
Mm.
was a very high profile project. It was going to roll out. It was, in Hollywood because they were in, basically show business. I mean,
Right.
these were the people who managed Madonna at that time.
Wow.
And I got bedazzled. And I've always been a risk taker, but it's acceptable risk to know 75% of what needs to be done and learn the other 25 on the fly as you go. And that's actually pretty cool for developers. We're constantly having to learn, and part of our big asset is our ability to learn.
Right.
But when the situation is flipped and you really only know about 25% and you're having to
Uh-oh.
learn 75 and you're not getting the support that you need and you're not recognizing the political pitfalls of the situation, that's too much.
Oh.
So that project, unfortunately, was a failure, but I learned a tremendous amount from it.
Well, I can believe how easy it would be to get bedazzled when you're in an arena like that. But the good thing is you did learn those lessons and you went on to grow from those. So it shows that you really did learn them because you know that you have to be in a position to flip that around from sure that you've got the 75% going and you only have to learn 25% for the business that you're in. And with your years of experience, that's the 75% that you've got going for you, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Thank you for opening up and sharing that story. Sometimes it's hard to relive those painful moments, but a review every so often helps us to remember that we did learn lessons and they help us to move forward. So what I want to do now, Joshua, is to go to the other end of the spectrum. Let's talk about the time in your journey when you had an aha moment, when you became aware of the new path that you wanted to travel. So take us to that moment when you had that light bulb go off and take us through the steps that you took to turn that idea into success.
Been a number along the way. There were turning points in my career, had aha moments. I think probably the more recent one was coming out of a very long 5-year project for a company called ClearSpire. There were a number of aha moments along the path there, but I realized, and this was sort of the beginning of Mobile Next, was that, I'd reached the point where I no longer really enjoyed coding myself,
Mm.
and that I needed to take the step in what was it? It was a career choice kind of point. What kinds of things did I still really enjoyed? Because I was still very much enjoyed technology, and I do a long review of everything that I had been doing. And I realized that one of the key things that I enjoyed the most, at least for the last 10 or 15 years, was the solution creation process and working with C-level executives, which I had most of my career, on creating solutions, that basically turn negatives into positives. And I'd done that in a number of cases. In fact, right after the ICM project, I went to a new company, a small company, faced, a really daunting challenge there. It was business software for the Mac. And it was at a period where the Mac had just fallen out of business, and it was a small company, and they didn't realize that Microsoft had swept the Mac aside as a business tool. Now, of course, Apple has come back now, but at that time, the market really was really
Right.
collapsing. So I found myself in a situation there where I had to turn the company around, had to get them to recognize, that was gone and that they had been a service-oriented company. And we did an evaluation. They finally did realize that, and we evaluated what their core strengths were and what their core business knowledge was, and identified product potential, created a product for them, worked with that company for about 15 years, and made it a successful product. The company is still going. So I realized from that situation, as well as the last one, which was working with this law firm with ClearSpire, that product creation and creating solutions and architecting solutions was what I really still enjoyed, and that I needed to give up coding in order to pursue that exclusively. And that's really where Mobile Next was born, where I don't code anymore. All I do is work on creative solutions to business problems.
It is just so important to like what you're doing, isn't it? And knowing you didn't like coding anymore, you needed to change that.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. So you had a real light bulb and it put you on a new path that's very successful now,
Hmm.
finding solutions for these other companies' problems. And you have a good coder.
Oh, we have about 17.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, good for you. Well, those real life experiences help us take the lessons that we learned and apply them to other facets of our life and business, and that's how we keep growing. So, Joshua, I'm going to ask you now to take us to the present time and share your proudest entrepreneurial moment.
Well, I think that probably architecting the Clearspire law firm out of DC, which was a 5-year project, and we were awarded patents on that, was probably, I guess my proudest moment in software architecting. It was one of those rare projects where I met the principals at the early stages of the concept, and that's really a great time to me to be able to be brought on board. What they wanted to do is they wanted to create a law firm that did not require physical offices, and they were entering an environment where legal counsel at the level they were was reaching $1,000 an hour. No
Wow.
project management, no estimate, no anything, just blank checks, basically.
Whew.
And they wanted to basically cut that in half or less. They'd heard about me because one of my products actually ran American Corporate Counsel, which is the largest association for in-house attorneys in the world.
Wow.
So they had referred me. Principals arrived, Mark Cohen and Bryce Arrowwood. They asked me if I could create a system that could both project as deliver law on a fixed price basis, and in the delivery of legal services. And I said, yes, I can. And they said, well, we want to create this law firm that cuts costs by one, doing the project management and being able to estimate and deliver law on a fixed price basis. But also we want to get rid of all of the that every firm has and that every client pays for and almost never sees. I said, well, if you're doing that, you're going to and have everybody working essentially out of home offices and small offices that allow the clients to do face-to-face meetings. You need a way to manage those attorneys so that they can work together. And if you don't do that very well, you're not going to be able to sustain this, because most people working out of their homes over an extended period of time find themselves isolated
Yes.
and cannot sustain that. And I have a lot of direct experience with doing that. So I said, what you need is what's called a community of practice. And essentially, a community of practice in its purest form is a collaboration platform where people come together to essentially work to improve their own profession.
Okay.
And it's a kind of professional social network. And so you need to do that. We need a community of practice, but obviously we need to kind of hybridize it a bit, because we need to bring project management where you're actually doing work tasks as a team, not as individuals. And then we also need, a socialization area. And we also, which is personal, so people can connect with each other on a personal level. And we also need an area where academically, so to speak, in a professional way, and be recognized for that, for their thought leadership.
Yes.
So we have these 3 different areas that we develop, and that by taking this collaboration platform and where it's producing thought leadership, then the thought leadership needs to get showcased, and that becomes your marketing engine. They agreed. That's what we ended up doing, and we created web-based. We allow attorneys from all over the world to work together and coordinate their work efforts to deliver legal product and to grow and become thought leaders, and to create tight bonds so that they wouldn't feel like they were working alone out of the house. And we combined video and audio and blogs, and then we created a client portal that gave complete transparency and even collaboration for the clients. So they knew exactly where the project was at every single stage.
My goodness. Just the opportunity for people to not feel isolated when they are working, I think, is a real benefit to a company being stronger. Good for you.
That was a 5-year, $5 million project. Probably the largest project we ever did.
Oh my goodness. Well, congratulations. And people really want to hear stories like yours because it shows how you have grown and made your business a success and how your business helps others to thrive. So, will you tell us one thing that's really exciting for your business right now?
I touched upon it earlier. It's both in the example of that app for those authors and the physicians, which is called the Natural Travel Doctor, the internet with the real world, and the opportunities that that has to offer for businesses in reaching their clients, as well as for social networks that actually help socialize people and help people to meet each other in the real world, as opposed to some of the social networks online, which I'd consider a little desocializing, actually. You're taking the information and you're taking what's available on the internet and you're applying it contextually in a local area that allows people to essentially use their phone, becomes now their kind of remote control and how they navigate through the world and through their social networks.
What's the best business advice that you've ever received?
I'm not sure if I received it or whether it was just one of those things that I learned along the way. And that is, if you're not doing, and it sounds like a cliche, but it's really true, if you're not doing what you're passionate about and you love, you're not going to be able to really succeed well at it. And so you just have to pursue what you're passionate about, regardless of the obstacles. Career, where I started off as an Apple programmer at the time when Apple was getting kicked out of business. And everybody said, "You're crazy. What are you doing?" And I'm like, well, it's what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And that's led me into all kinds of positions that there wasn't anybody else to fill at the time because nobody was doing it
Right.
anymore.
Well, good for you.
So the second thing that I found, and people still think I'm a little nutty about this, is, a lot of business people will do business with anybody that has a check that clears.
Oh,
And I'm really not like that.
right.
I'm interested in working with people who have integrity and the kinds of people who I feel that I could be friends with. I'm interested in long-term business relationships where we're with them and we help them grow at all stages and throughout their business growth over time. So I'm really kind of gotten to the point where, I'm really interested primarily in doing business with people who have common values, who are interested in giving something back in the world, not simply taking from it. And I think that that's important because business is really kind of a form of democracy. And the more we work to create the kind of businesses, kind of change we want through commerce in the world, the better things will be for people.
Oh, that's so true. And that thinking that you have shows how you achieved to become such a successful entrepreneur. That's your nature and how you really are in the core. That was very good that you explained that. Thank you. Well, now I want to ask you, what's the vision of the future of your business?
As any new business starts, I think one of the tendencies is to say, well, gee, we've done all of this in the past and we can do all of this now. We've got to keep narrowing it down and saying, no, not this, not this, not this. Get more and more focused. And I think that, the Natural Travel Doctor really kind of opened up to an area that we want to pursue much more heavily, and that is the publishing world. And we're just getting ready
Oh,
to start to work with another author now, and possibly actually two more authors. And I see a lot of potential in mobile and tablet-based apps, again, social network, and books,
wow.
going a step beyond enhanced ebooks. And so I'm very interested in that, in essentially lifestyle books that create social networks around the ideas of the author. And so that the readership are interacting with each other, the readership are interacting with the authors, and using multiple medias, i.e. video, audio, blog, etc., to accomplish that. So we have a particular interest in publishing right now.
Well, that does sound exciting. Very good. You're always thinking, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I've been in product design for so many years that I'm constantly looking at everything and saying, given the current technologies, how could we do this better? Or how could we do this differently that would engage people? So that I'm always thinking of product concepts. It's just kind of the way I am. I look
Right.
at doing service work as research and development for product.
Okay. Well, can you share one of your personal habits that you strongly believe contributes to your success?
Well, I'd say it's tenacity.
Yes.
I'm tenacious. I don't give up. I take a lot of risks. I get out there and I meet a lot of people. I follow my intuition. There's a lot of good opportunities that come along that seem like they're good from an economic point of view, but I follow that little spark that says, boy, this is an exciting person, or this is an
Oh,
exciting project, but really more focused on exciting people. We're very people oriented, and I think that all good successful business and all good successful product is really a byproduct of the kind of relationships that you form with the people that you work with.
oh,
And I
that's
think
so true.
this gets overlooked a lot. I think developers in the software world know this more than anybody else because a good product, whether it be a game or whether it's software product, is produced in an atmosphere of fun and adventure. And in software, fun is very serious business. It's the creative soup. It's what makes everything work. You don't have fun working with people you don't like.
Oh, that's
You've
true.
got to work with the folks that you really resonate with.
Yes. Well, do you have an internet resource to share with our listeners which helps your efficiency, like Evernote or maybe a special app that you know about?
Well, there's one that I would recommend. Developers use it, and project managers use it. It's called Pivotal Tracker. Pivotal Tracker is a unique kind of product in that it starts from the discovery phase for any kind of project or any kind of thing that you're engaged with. It does not have to be software. It starts from a storytelling perspective.
I like
It's a
that.
product, it's internet based, that leads you through the creation of the stories for each of the different roles that are going to be involved in whatever kind of product or solution that you're creating. And then it turns that into a project management plan. I really like Pivotal Tracker because it recognizes that storytelling is the core to what we do. Whether it's you're creating mobile apps or business solutions, you're essentially, and I used to tell people this a lot, younger developers that I used to hire, that you're a storyteller, you're part storyteller, and you're part investigative reporter.
Right.
And then when you're creating business solutions, you're first in the role of the investigative reporter who is finding out the real source behind the pain that the client is talking about.
Right.
And then you're a storyteller who is recapitulating that and telling that back to the client in terms that they understand, non-technical, to help them come to a recognition of where the real problem resides. Because oftentimes the pain is in one place, but it's very difficult to recognize the cause when you're in the woods yourself. And as developers, as solution providers, we stand and we see the whole forest. We have to be investigative reporters, find out what the real causes of the problem are, many of which happen to be human, not technological,
Right.
and then tell the story and learn the stories from everybody that are in that business, in those stories. And that's what creates a good solution.
Well, I firmly believe that storytelling is so important because everybody's got a story, whether they're involved with looking for their pain and a cause or they just want to provide history for future generations. The stories are vital. Would you describe for us who a perfect referral is for your business? Like who are business associates or clients that the listeners might know who would benefit from doing business with you?
Basically, any business that finds themselves in pain and needs creative solutions and is looking for opportunities to grow their business.
Thank you for telling us those because it helps the people that are listening have an idea and they can say, oh, I know the perfect referral for Joshua, and then they can get in touch with you with that. If you could recommend just one book to our listeners, what would it be?
It would probably be the lean startup right now
Oh,
because we work with a lot of startup companies. I would also recommend to establish businesses who are engaging in large software projects, I would recommend The Mythical Man Month. It's an older book, but it's definitely very relevant.
Well, Joshua, I've truly enjoyed listening to your journey and the stories that you've shared. So will you please share one more time how we can get in touch with you and then any other resources that you want us to have, and then we'll say goodbye.
Okay, well, it's mobileneck.net is how you can get in touch with us. And our phone number is 480-389-1126.
And thank you for being so generous with your time, expertise, and your experiences. Okay, listeners, you can find links to this resource and everything that we've been chatting about today in the episode by going to bizstoryshared.com/Joshua Capy. Again, thank you, Joshua, and I'll say goodbye.
Okay, well, thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you. Give the storyteller some love. Go to bizstoryshared.com, click on the iTunes button, and give a 5-star review. Thanks.